Everybody's talking when I'm talking, fellas, so shut up and take
Can I have your attention, please?
Who had nothing to do. Good morning, or good.
I didn't know it.
We're so used to this. Produce content and have conversations for those. Let's all go to the lobby. Look what I did. Let's try it again. Good morning or good evening, depending on whatever shift your seniority allows you to hold. I'm William Young, correctional officer, author, and advocate for the correctional profession. Tonight I'll be your ever so gracious host and director of dialogue for the duration of this discussion. Allow me to welcome you with warm, unwavering outstretch and open arms to this week's edition of the Saturday Night Synopsis. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about tactical handcuffing and the proper way to escort an inmate down the hall using your technique you learned 17 years ago in your 8-hour PPCT class. Remember to keep your 2.5 position. Keep your hands free of your coffee or your Diet Mountain Dew or your radio. Jam them in the back of your pocket so you're weighed down, but your hands are free to defend yourself if necessary. How you like that? That's what I'm going to do the show. Listen, I messed up already because I was talking to my guest tonight right before the show came on, and we were talking about how I always screw something up. And guess what? I already screwed something up because I had my freaking mic muted. Look at, I have a sign, everything. I tease my other fellow podcasters, unmute your mic. Last week, Russ kept his mic muted, and I screwed it up. But thanks for sticking with me. It's going to be a crazy show. The Saturday Night Synopsis turns 21. Tonight. 21 weeks I've been doing this show, and it has been a blast. So I got to thinking, what could I do what can the show do now that it's 21, right? And I didn't want to be creepy and do like 21 weeks, because if the show was 21 weeks old and we talked about what a 21-week-old, thing baby would do, it would just be crawl and shit their pants, right? Which is probably what this episode, the description of the episode should be. William Young crawls and shits his pants on Facebook Live all the time. But instead, I wanted to do 21 years old. So we'll do 21. When you turn 21, other than drinking, what can we do? Well, I found out some really fun things that this show could now do because it's 21. All right? So if this show was based out of New Jersey, it could go and it could get a horizontal driver's license. Instead of the up and down, the minor one, it could now get it right. That's exciting. That's super exciting. The show could also get its pilot's license. So it could fly an airplane or a helicopter, or in England, I learned that it could fly a gyroplane. And I don't even know what a gyroplane is, but it sounds it sounds less controllable than a regular helicopter. So maybe we won't do that. If we were in Iowa, we could gamble, right? So that's exciting. If we were in Colorado, we could possess an ounce of marijuana. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe. You could get your CCW, so the show could be as armed and paranoid as the host of the show. In Mississippi, we could get married without parental consent, and pretty much everywhere we could apply to adopt a kid. We probably wouldn't get the kid, but we could apply to adopt a kid. So that's some of the things that the show could do now that we're 21 weeks. And I want to say thank you, and I appreciate everybody who's stuck with me for this long. And if you guys know, you've been following the show, you've been following the podcast, the show, the audio version of all of these shows are now up on all of your podcast platforms. If you don't have time to sit and watch it, you can sit down and listen to it. I post a link all over my page, and I'll post a link in the description of this video so you can check it out. We're also celebrating tonight. Other than turning 21, we hit 500 subscribers on the YouTube channel this week. Yesterday, I think 505. So I got to retire my old play button here. If you guys remember, we made this play button, white balance. I got 336 on YouTube. We're retiring that play button. For those of you listening, they have no idea what I just did. I ripped up my old YouTube play button. And if you can look, my co-host right back here, if you can see, I have Paul Rubin, and he is holding my new play button. 505 subscribers. I had my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, and her neighborhood friends sit down, and since we're all doing remote learning anyways, this is like an art credit, right? This is an art project for them. So 505. That's awesome. The thing is, there's 956 that are on my Facebook page following, and so not all of you are participating in the YouTube channel, and that's upsetting to me. It's borderline. I'm a little depressed about it, to be honest with you, and it's a bad time to be a corrections officer, to be in law enforcement, and so I could really use the support. I need some help, need some support. All right, what else? What else is going on? Well, I got a message here. Hey, there's Rob. How you doing, Rob? He said, congratulations on the number 21. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate you, buddy. Listen, so I had a little freak out moment last night I was going to talk to you about, I was outside. I was with my neighbors, and I was playing Can Jam. It's a Frisbee game that you throw. And every once in a while, I have these moments where I try to explain to people, like people that don't work in this environment, what the environment can do to you, like the side effects, right? And it's kind of hard for somebody to understand, what that actually looks like. But so last night, it was a good opportunity. I'm playing Can Jam with my neighbors, who are amazing people, awesome people, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them here in just a second. But so we're playing Can Jam. And this car rolls down the street, a car that I don't recognize because, I know every single car in the neighborhood. And they flip a UE, they shut off their lights, and they sit there for a while. And, man, my threat perception went through the roof. See, part of the problem is I wasn't drinking last night. I had coffee. And so my threat perception was through the roof. And we're trying to play this game, and I can't do it. I can't. I'm locked in right on this car. That ended up just being teenagers, just sitting there. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. What do teenagers do? Probably crushing up their mom's antidepressants and snorting them in some, back alley suburbia neighborhood or something. I don't know what they were doing. But that's probably what they were doing. They weren't waiting for anybody. But I got a chance to show my name, to explain to him and say, look, man, I can't focus right now, man. I am locked. He's like, yeah, I'm watching the car too. I'm like, no, you're not. What's the license plate? How many people are in there? Well, I don't know. Yeah, you don't, because I'm like zeroed in. Anyways, they ended up driving off. It was cool, but man, it's a real thing. That hypervigilance, man, and that the way that the job affects you, it's just, it's unreal, and it happens in the most inopportune times, and it happens in little tiny ways that you just don't even understand until it actually takes place. And part of the problem for me now is that there's the lines between home and work, and I talk about this in my book, and it's kind of the whole premise of everything I talk about. But right now it's kind of a weird deal, weird time right now, because it's not just being at work that is the threat, that is the problem right now. Because in a lot of areas, there's a lot of civil unrest, a lot of protests happening, right? And a lot of correctional facilities are in downtown areas, metropolis, areas, and you have to. It's not very far away from people where people are protesting, or like in our case, a few weeks ago, people were actually on our front lawn. And so I have to prepare myself to drive into that, right? I have to keep myself safe driving into that. And then I have to do the normal, keep myself safe at work and avoid those obstacles and those dangers. And then to make a perfect paranoid sandwich, I now, and for several months, but this has all caught up with me here in the last couple of weeks. Now I have to worry about bringing this fucking virus home to my family. So I have to fight my way into work, potentially. I have to fight for my life inside of work, potentially. And then I'm bringing this invisible enemy home on, regardless of the precautions, regardless of the cheap paper mask that I'm wearing at work, right? And it's just been kind of overwhelming the last couple of weeks. Just another reminder of how this job is a lot different from all these other professions that are out there, right? The normal people, right? Because I have not been able to fully disengage from what's going on. Even like tonight. Tonight I'm off, right? I'm going to do my show and it's good and I enjoy it. But I'm checking Twitter, right? Because there's protests happening, and I know my brothers and sisters are got to go in and out of work, and none of us are safe when that's going on. And I try to stay away from that stuff, but I watched a couple of videos today, and it's just things are silly right now. Things are silly. Things are upside down. And look, I'm not trying to bitch. I know, I get it. I know what I signed up for. I knew what I was getting into. There's a lot of other professions that are stressed out that, like stocking grocery shelves and working at a bank and a gas station stuff, super, super stressful. So I'm not trying to bitch. I knew what I signed. If I don't like it, I could just get another job. I should take that advice, because I'm sure if I posted this inside of some corrections forum, some old salty veteran like myself would say, "Well, just get another job if you get into the stress and the pressure." And I'm not going to do that. Maybe, I don't know, but but that's where we're at. So it's kind of hard to turn it off. So am I the only one? Am I the only one that's had that situation, or that can or can't do that? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have a similar situation, where you've been able to say, hey, look how this job has affected me. I want to show you guys this too real quick. I got a couple. I'm going to do a 21st show here, special show. We're going to talk about a couple of books that I got. And I've talked about this one before, and I'm going to shove in the camera and bring it back so you can see it real quick. Look at this. Check it out. This one's called Why Is Dad So Mad by Seth Castle. And you can get it. I got this on Amazon. You can get it at castlebooks.com. But it's a book written for children. It's called Why Is Dad So Mad? A book about PTSD and military families. But I bought it because it's very applicable to all first responders, to correctional staff and everything. Look, it says it's like Dad always has a fire inside his chest. When he gets mad, the flame grows and grows really quickly. When he gets mad, it's like a fire is in control of him. When Dad yells and is mad, it's not because he wants to make you feel sad. He would do anything not to be the way that he is. But the fire is just a part of who he is now. And there's a version of this. The super cool thing about this book is there is a version of this that's called Why Is Mom So Mad as well. So it's not just for the guys. The gals can get it. And it goes on to explain kind of why and some of the symptoms and what's going on. And I think it's a good book. And look, when I was taking my college classes and I was reading and I was doing my studying, sometimes I had to jump on YouTube, man, and look at, like chemistry, like how do you explain stoichiometry to sixth graders, and then I could watch the little singing video about it and play. I remember I was studying for a a test over the cells in biology, and I found this little game where I would drive a little tiny spaceship, like inner space, kind of around, and I would shoot like the mitochondria and the ribosomes or whatever. I can't even remember what's all in there. Are ribosomes inside of a cell? I don't know. It's been a long time. All I remember is RNA, and that's that there's a little tiny spot inside of the cell, inside of the nucleus, right, the nuclei, that scientists don't know what happens inside of there, right? It's kind of like Vegas, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in the nuclei stays inside the nuclei, and then it comes out, boom, RNA, and everything else goes from there. So that's kind of fun that there's something that we don't know about. Anyway, so that's an awesome book. Check it out. It's a neat little book to have, and I think it's really cute. It's a really basic explanation of why we behave the way we behave sometimes. So check it out. Let me know what you think about it. If you do, send me an email, send me a message or whatever. But the second book is a book that I got. Like I said, I've had a shitty couple of weeks, and I'm very fortunate to have an awesome, just awesome neighbors, right? Like the best neighbors anybody could have, and so I've discussed this with them, and they know what's going on and stuff. And so my neighbor lady, who makes these fantastic jalapeno poppers as well, like a couple of times a week, and then she brings them over for me. It's fantastic. She brings this book over, and it's called Who Moved My Cheese? Already, I'm going to shove it up into the camera again here like this. Who Moved My Cheese, right? Spencer Johnson, MD. She's a doctor, so you know it's got to be true information, right? Not like some hack that wrote a pamphlet like this, like me, right? Anyways, Who Moved My Cheese is about change and how people are uncomfortable change, how change is really scary, and it's just such a simple. It's kind of like this Why Is Dad So Mad book, right? It's such a simple little tiny analogy, but it fits corrections so good, right? It's like all we have to do is show up to work, don't bring in heroin, don't sleep with an inmate, and we're going to have a job, right? And then we become accustomed, we become institutionalized, and then it's almost like we're afraid to venture out to do anything else, right? And I'm not talking about quitting and doing something else, maybe part of that, but even when we retire, I've watched people who can retire that are so used to that regiment, that environment, that smell, that they don't want to go do anything else. And that's crazy. But this book talks about it. It's an awesome book. So I thanked her, and we discussed it. We had a little porch session the other night, and we discussed the book. It's super awesome, but it's called Who Moved My Cheese, and I recommend you guys read it. It took me less than an hour to read it. It's not very long. And so that's good. So that's what you should do. Okay, well, that's it. I'm going to throw my notes on the ground. Watch, boom. You know what that means? That means we're going to get into the introduction of the guest. Man, I rambled a little bit longer than I wanted to tonight, but it's the 21st show. So what are you going to do about it? Nothing. All right, my guest here, and this is I've been watching this guy for a while. I've been creeping, almost stalking this guy for a little bit because I came across. I don't even know how I came across his Facebook Live thing that he does, or his videos that he does, and but there he was, and he's in front of me. And he's giving out this terrific information, this motivational information, and so I wanted to kind of see what it was about, and I said, you know what? After I watched a few of his videos, I said I got to get this dude on the show. So this guy right here, he's got this humongous. I sent him a message today. Said, "Could you send me a short bio so I can do this introduction?" And he sent me the unabridged version of Pride and Prejudice. This thing's like 2,000 pages long, so I can't. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about the guy. But and then a couple of weeks ago, we're going to talk about this in a second. I'm going to get him because I want him to talk about this too. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight my guest is the founder and coordinator of the Tuscola County First Team, which is First Responder Sport Team. It's a peer sport team. He spent time serving his community both as a correctional officer, sheriff's deputy, and he spent time in the Michigan Air National Guard. He retired from that in a couple of years ago. All right, so give him a big Saturday night synopsis. Welcome to Jon Ramirez. Jon, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hey, so I saw in one of your videos a while ago, and you were describing the show that you were going to be on. You said, "Hey, I'm going to be on the show," and you talked about how I was stalking you for a little bit, and then you said that the show. I'm going to misquote you probably, but you said that the show is dripping with sarcasm and sometimes comedy. Is that pretty close?
That's close, yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'm glad I asked that guy on the show because I got to figure that out. I don't know if that's I have a couple of buddies and when they would introduce me to somebody new, I had this guy that said, "Hey, this is Bill," and then he told the guy he's an acquired taste. And I'm like, I think that's a nice way to say that I'm an asshole, you know?
Right. Yeah. I usually come with a disclaimer, just like I sent you, right?
Right, yeah.
So everything we talk about tonight is clearly my opinion only, okay? It's not a reflection of my agency or nothing. Just me.
That's very good. Yeah, and the same goes for I was going to read that on the air because I've had guests send me pages and pages of show notes. I've had guests say, "Hey, we're not going to talk about this topic. We're not going to talk," but I've never had a guest send me a disclaimer, which was I was kind of nervous. I'm like, what the hell is this guy going to say if he's going to if he's going to throw that on there? So, how you been today, man? How'd your day go?
Well, typical road patrol stuff, I guess. Started my day, with a cup of coffee and then right to a deceased body. So yeah.
Nice.
This one was at least fresh, so that's good.
Yeah. So two very distinct smells, kind of mixing together in the air. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I have to admit though, when you go through the police academy, they give you like a 5-minute segment of how to talk to people and deliver bad news, like, "Hey, your loved one just died."
Sure.
And I'm glad they took the 5 minutes to do that. The hardest part of the job, legitimately, is telling someone that their loved one is now passed.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to assault you, hug you,
fall on the ground.
Quick. Yeah. All of it, right? And we'll probably talk about this later on in the show, but as my career has progressed and my outlook on life has changed, opportunities like that have changed. I was watching one of your shows earlier, I think it was week 17, and how you think, I really think you and I are cut from the same cloth. It was probably like at a Joann's fabric store, and it was like in the scrap pile, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And I find those opportunities, I don't know if you remember that week in particular, but
it's all a blur to me, man.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so I find opportunities like that to be able to, with the lack of a better word, minister to somebody. You're in their worst moment of their life. In this situation, amazing woman. She'd been married to her husband 64 years. And he got to pass at home. And, we got there in time to try and attempt CPR. Mm-hmm. And we did CPR for our protocol quite a while. And when we were all done, we got the time of death, and we cleaned him up because we generally allow family to come in and be with their loved one. And I asked the EMT, I'm like, "Hey, can you give me a hand?" And he's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "Well, my man's 84 years old, man. He just lived the dream that we want. We want to go
right.
at home." And I said, can you give me a hand putting him back in bed?" He's like, "Yeah, we can do that." So we put him in bed, kind of tucked him in, and that meant so much to the family because they realized with this whole crazy COVID thing that had he been in the hospital with an illness, they wouldn't have been
right.
able to be with him. So yeah, when you're able to, man, I feel like your face just drained, dude. It's like we're serious all of a sudden.
Oh no, I was thinking back. No, thanks. First 5 minutes that you've been on, you took me back to my worst. So I used to work in the mortuary transport business, right?
Correct.
My worst. When somebody asked me, "Hey man, what's the craziest shit you ever saw?" I know what they want to hear, but honestly, the worst call that I ever had was I picked up a gentleman that was probably in his 60s, mm-hmm. and he died in the hospital. And when I went in there, it was early in the morning. It was probably 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I went in there, and his wife was sitting there next to the bed. And I said, I greeted her, and she said, can you have a seat? And I'm like, sure. And she wanted to tell me. She told me how he died. She told me how long they had been married, and that last night was the greatest night. One of the greatest nights they've had in a long time, because they got to sit and talk about their whole relationship and all of the good times, and listening to her go over her life with him was harder than any brains I've ever had to scrape up off the cement. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do. This gentleman's daughter, who's older, quite a bit older than I am. Like I said, he's 84. She came in and I've got 5 kids, right? And I got 2 beautiful daughters. I talked about how I dropped one off at college last week, and to see her lament over her father, that right there, I knew he was a great man.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you walk in the house, you knew he was a Christian, but most of all, you knew he was a man of God, and you knew that he lived his life in a way that he meant everything to this family. So as they're all in the kitchen, making small talk or trying to figure out which funeral home to go to and stuff like that, I realized his wife's in the living room by herself. Mm. Right? Her best friend of 64 years is gone.
Right.
And so I took that moment to go out there and sit next to her on the couch. I'm like, I try and make it a point to everybody's Mr. and everybody's Mrs. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes or no, sir. And I said, could you tell me about your husband? And her face just smiled. She's crying. She's upset because her husband's gone. Her best friend's gone. But when you can divert their attention to something else, she was just smiles. I was able to find out he was an engineer for Buick, and, just you found out what kind of a man and relationship they had. And you're right. That is the hardest part sometimes about these things. It's not about, the body has been there so long, you got to get a shot back to suck it up.
Right.
No.
Wet dry back.
Right. Yeah.
A big one.
To see these, yeah. So to see people actually care about their loved one, because we don't always get to see that, man.
Right.
How many times have you dealt with a family that the guy had been gone or the woman had been gone for weeks and no one even knew? No one called their mother. Nobody called their father to see if they were okay or needed anything, So I try and bring that and make it personal, for them, that we're not just coming in, going through the motions. Coroner comes in, funeral home comes in, and then it's like an assembly line. I want them to know that somebody's taking the time to, yeah, I got time to sit down and talk with you about your husband.
Now let me ask you this, because so one of the techniques that I used and during my funeral time was I didn't want to know that stuff, because then I carried that with me, and and it's almost the same with the correctional work. They always talk about, well, don't get too involved, and stuff like that, but there were times that I did do that, and I'm obviously different now than when I did that. I did that, 16 years ago. But how do you then? So you take that information, and now you're carrying it around with you. Now that call is now a person, right?
Right.
And now you go home. So for me, the individual that I had to do CPR on not too long ago, okay. I found out way more about this kid than I should have.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I researched the kid.
Okay.
Which made him stick around a lot longer than
it
other
made
things.
Him a human, right? It made him a human instead of a number.
Yeah, which in our line of work, that's a delicate balance, don't you think?
Right. Absolutely. Quite honestly, the answer to that is when I have situations like this, because they are so few and far between, I bring it home. My wife's an RN. She works at a local hospital, and it gives us hope. Like, you know,
Right.
they were married 64 years, you know. Probably one of the best stories I ever had, similar to this, was this husband and wife. He was a pastor. He had retired. But for the last 68 years, him and his wife had sat down at the table every morning, and over breakfast, they would do a devotional, right? So that morning was no different than any other of the last 68 years that they were married. They sat down, and he said, honey, I'll take my eggs scrambled today. And she turned around to start cooking the egg, and he's sitting at the kitchen table, and he opens up his Bible, and he starts reading the scripture, and he stopped. Well, she's still scrambling the egg, and she's thinking, oh, I'm about to get some profound, you know, utterance from my husband, you know. And she turned around, and he was gone. You know, that to me is like amazing, right? Because little personal thing for me is tomorrow marks my 4-year anniversary that my mom's been gone. She battled cancer for 10 years, stage 4 breast cancer, and tomorrow is the anniversary of her passing. So when I have glimpse of hope like that, man, it's awesome. It kind of recharges the batteries and kind of takes away the negative stuff.
You want to talk cut from the same cloth? My mom also passed from breast cancer. Fought it for 10 years. She died in 2006.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's been gone a little bit. She was 46 years old.
Oh man, that's too young.
Yeah,
that's our age, man.
Yeah, I know it. Well, yeah, you want to talk. Listen, I picked up bodies for 5 years, right? I've seen all kinds of craziness, and then I had my mom. I watched her die, and then you know, I'm coming up on that age. You don't talk about it being in the back of my mind, thinking, man, do I have 4 Christmases left? Do I have 3? Do I have 20? I mean, you don't know.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. You know, and you do start to look at life differently. You know, you have that different perspective kind of the older you get in this game. You know, like I said, we'll probably get into it later in the show, but yeah.
No, I think, yeah, I like to ease into shows like, hey, buddy, why are you a cop? And you went right to, let's talk about our mothers that have passed away. So thanks a lot.
Hey, no
I can't
Cheers.
Yeah, there you go, buddy.
It's coffee, I swear. I've been up since 3.
I went hiking. I took my I had my 2 boys. My son's in the Navy. He came back. He surprised me. He's a corpsman.
Okay.
So he surprised me last week. Anyways, we went hiking. My 2 boys, my daughter, neighbor kids, my wife, and so so I'm exhausted. But it was a great day. It was a beautiful day. So it was awesome that I got to do that. So all right. So let's start from the beginning.
It's your fault.
Woo.
You asked me how my day went.
Yeah, I didn't know it was gonna lead into that. Let's just talk about tactical handcuffing now. So what got you into police work? Did you always want to be you're a sheriff's deputy, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. You know, the honest answer to that is I don't know.
Okay. We'll make up something. Okay, come up with something.
Yeah. So let's go with this. During my time on active duty Air Force, I came across a opportunity, if you will, to serve with the Secret Service.
Okay.
All right. So I was a communications specialist at the time, and I was at a school. Speaking of your "Who Moved My Cheese" book, everybody cracks at me because they don't realize that's a real book.
It's a real book. Have you read it?
It was part of our Airman Leadership School. We had to read it.
Nice,
right?
Nice.
So while I'm at this school, they give us this opportunity. You know, commander's approval, letter of recommendation, all this crap. You know, just hoops you got to jump through. I thought, you know, that's pretty solid. So I convinced my leadership, you know, this is what I really want to do. I should have asked questions because I didn't realize I'd be living out of a suitcase for the next 18 months. But awesome. You know, I got accepted in with the Secret Service. So I was traveling around with Senator John Kerry and Senator John Edwards during their presidential bid.
Nice.
You know, we're hitting 3 to 5 cities a week, right? And at the end of it, I was asked or tasked to set up communications for the inauguration, and I was in charge of communication along the parade route, right? So when I got done, they said, you know, you've been the longest serving augmentee that we've had. Like, there's actually a little museum in Missouri, or Missouri, and my name's in there for the longest time with the Air Force Communications Agency and WACA, which is the White House Communications Agency.
All right.
And so I was like, that's not so bad. Well, then we had our forced drawdown, and if you weren't getting out, they were kicking you out. And so I said, well, I'll volunteer. Why not? So they booted me, and I came out and was a bounty hunter for a while. And as fun as that was, the lieutenant or the jail administrator at the time was like, John, because I've been in and out of the jail writing bonds for the longest time, 5 years approximately. He says, John, we got some open spots coming in because of a safety grievance. Why don't you put in for it? Why don't you test for it? Okay, fine. Tested for it, went all the way through the interview process. They offered me the job. I turned it down.
Smartest thing you ever did.
Well, right, because I wasn't really sure that, I walk in to write these bonds, and these guys are just like, I'm like, yeah, we call the control room they call the control room the fishbowl. I'm like, what the hell? I don't want to sit there for my,
Right.
So, a couple years go by, and they had another opening, and the lieutenant, again, said, why don't you put in for it again? And the same people are on the interview panel.
Right,
and the road commander at the time says, well, why the hell would I give you a job when you already turned it down once? Yeah, I got nothing for you, man. You probably shouldn't,
Right.
Well, we both agreed, and we got hired, and that kind of started my career in corrections. And I did corrections for about 5 years. And I can't tell you why I wanted to be a cop, but I can tell you why I wasn't going to be a corrections officer.
Go ahead.
All right. So, no names. All right. There was an inmate, a male inmate.
Okay.
And I have to be careful because some people lost their job over this situation.
Okay.
Right. So he was a mental. All right. He's probably should have been in a state facility rather than a county facility. We didn't have the means to take care of mental health, which, as you know, is a huge problem in corrections. Mm-hmm. And this happened frequently. Like I never, like when you're stationed with Marines, they dry hump each other, and there's a reason that the Navy and the Marines are,
easy, right? Buddy, easy.
I know, right? So it was like, that was normal. But when you see somebody masturbate while they're looking at you, you're like, ah.
We call that Thursday. That's what we call that. Yeah.
Right. But it was at that moment that he's masturbating, and he smeared it on the window, and I'm eating my sandwich, looking at him like we're locked, like
right?
eye contact.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do this. I'm good. Like, man, right?
Yeah.
See, that's, we have a good law enforcement program at our tech center where area schools go to kids go to learn like technical jobs, welding, construction, nursing, early childhood care, stuff like that. You almost lost. Oh, Pete,
my God,
something going on there. Censored.
It is Paul Rubin, and you did talk about something. Your story invoked the spirit of Paul Rubin.
I have powers.
And I shouldn't be sitting, I shouldn't have Paul Rubin behind me while we're doing him. Yeah.
You're not in the theaters, so you're good.
No, I don't know. I think I'll have to clean up after this show.
Yeah, that was when I realized, like, I'm not cut out for this, when you are fighting with somebody that truly believes they are Jesus Christ,
right?
Yeah, man, I got nothing for you, bro.
I didn't know you guys had Jesus there too. Yeah. We I think we've had Jesus.
Funny story. Like, so I guess I got to ask you this.
Okay.
Do you work in a penitentiary,
nope.
prison,
or county jail? County jail.
Okay, great. Because some places I found out call their jails prisons. So I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, Pennsylvania was one. I read an article a couple weeks ago about the So, anyways, that's weird. East Coast stuff. Weird. Yeah.
Right. So Midwest, we got you.
Yeah.
So county jail stuff. Yeah, we used to have at our Sally Port when you come into the jail, we used to have a little picture of Jesus because everybody finds Jesus when they come to jail.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's when I realized I didn't want to be a corrections officer, and I went to the dark side and took a leave of absence and put myself through the police academy and came on out to the road.
That is a, that story there that you told is, I mean, every correctional officer can relate to that. I mean, that's
right.
like I said. I mean, that is something that I took a group of new hires into our SEG unit one day to kind of just show them around and whatever. And I'm going in there and this is our unit and these are the guys that work and these are the things we do. And I walked out and they're all just pale, right? Super pale. And I'm like, what's going on? And the one guy was like, sir, the guy in room 16 was playing with himself. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, and he was looking at this female here. And I said, you know what, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm not sorry that happened to you because that's, right. I mean, that's what you're walking into. Job. And I said, here's the steps now here's the disciplinary steps that we can do. But, right. But I mean, look at those, that's one of those things that, how do you convince somebody, or, when I'm talking about corrections work and how just crazy it can be. And people say, well, you knew what you're getting into, and I had some guy the other day was telling me that, all these other jobs that were crazier than corrections, and I said, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But that story that you just told, I mean, right. How many times has a normal person, a civilian, witnessed somebody else doing that in front of them, or at them, or to them? Right. The answer is probably 0 unless they, went to a small community college. Then it was probably 3 or 4. But,
right.
but for me, I can't count how many times I've seen that. I mean, it changes you.
Right. And I'm sure your facility is the same as ours, where every square inch is under camera. Right. So if you're not seeing it in person, you're seeing it on camera.
Right.
So I mean, and on a flip side, I don't think I could ever make it in jail. But,
I would be that guy.
I would be that guy.
I would be
like, like you want me to, I did 8 months in Kuwait. Like, that ain't nothing, right? Everybody hates the jokes when I talk about, like, when we're on patrol. I'm like, oh, porta potty. And they're like, right. What's significant about a porta potty? Nothing, unless you've been to Kuwait. Right.
I had a weird thought. I was coming out of work the other day, and this has been a couple months ago, I guess. But so here's my thought, and this is why I know that I have a problem. I'm walking out, and I'm like, it just hit me. I'm like, I didn't see anybody's dick today. Like, I didn't do any strip searches today, and right. and so that thought was comforting.
Right.
And upsetting to me. It was comforting because I got through a shift, and I couldn't remember the last time that I got through a shift like that. But then also that's such a normal occurrence for me that when it didn't happen, it threw me off.
Yeah, like, I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, what was that?
That's what it was.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things that just it chips away at you. And again, so it's not, okay, well, yeah, so I haven't been a guy could say, well, I haven't been assaulted. Yeah, but yes, you have. Yes, thank you. You have been assaulted. Right. But they don't think that way. And then they're wondering why they're all jacked up, and it's because of this very thing. So, sure. Well, so good. So you got out of corrections, you got on the road, and then you had this call that you talked to me about. You want to talk about that call a little bit? Sure. Okay.
By that time I had been on the road several years, and what I didn't realize, because we're trained or made to believe that nothing is traumatic unless you shoot somebody.
Right.
Right? Unless you have an OIS or an officer involved shooting, the rest is, what's your problem? Get over it. Right? Well, so after this call, it was on February 9th of, 2019.
Yep.
It was, this woman is home with her disabled child. She is very debilitating and just, she has bad injuries. But anyway, the mother heard somebody knocking on the front door, and this I won't even give him the pleasure of being called a gentleman, but this man was using a pair of pliers to break in through the glass door and then break the glass on the regular door, the entry door, and let himself in. So she had locked herself away in her daughter's bedroom because her last effort was going to be to protect her daughter. And, eventually the man made entry to the bedroom, and I get there a short time later, and he's got, there was a struggle before I got there, and he's got this knife, I think it was right around 10 or 12 inches long, and he's got it to her neck, and when you get tunnel vision, because it was one of those things where when you hear the dispatcher kind of getting amped up, you're like, oh shit, this is real.
Right.
And you start thinking to yourself, like, you have to prepare yourself. You have to be like, I'm gonna have to shoot this guy. I'm gonna have to shoot this guy.
Right.
Like and this is where, through my studies and things like that, this is where I learned about preloading, where we have to be careful about preloading an officer before he gets to a call. But anyway, I get there. He's got the knife to her throat. I didn't even see her daughter in the hospital bed beside. I mean, I'm standing right next to her, right? And as he's bringing the knife back to stab her in the neck, and she's got both hands on the blade, she's bleeding. I end up tasing him, instead of shooting him, and I'll get to why that's important in a minute. And I was able to wrestle him to the ground, kick the knife away, handcuff him. By that time, another officer got there. We were able to drag him out of the house and secure him in my car. And I went immediately to, it's amazing when you train. I didn't make any choices that day. It was my training that just took over. I immediately started securing evidence, processing the scene, taking photographs, getting a statement, totally negating or forgetting the fact that I was just involved in this traumatic incident. Right. And so, everybody gets medical treatment. They go away. Fine. Great. And I start typing the report, and my supervisor was on scene pretty quickly, and he says, are you okay? Like, yeah, I'm good. What's our state? We look, we're not bleeding. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you move on. We transport him to the hospital, get him treatment, and lodge him at the jail, and bada boom, bada bing, we're gone. And that night or that evening, dude, I thought I was sick, man. Because we liked all the serious stuff, but I was actually scheduled to go home, or was going to go home because I was sick that morning.
Right.
Like I had just MDT'd my supervisor, like, yo, man, I got to go home, right? Like, I got bubble guts. I got to go. Right. Yeah, sure. No problems. Break. Sure. 55 copy. Crap. Great. Here we go. And then that call unfolds. And so that evening, I figure it's just the bubble guts, right? I can't sleep. I'm second guessing everything. Everybody's telling me, good job, good job, good job. You don't want to hear that. Like, that's what we want to do because, yeah, you did do a good job. And you want to tell your coworkers that. But I had no clue what to expect physiologically or physically, or what my body went through. And so the next day, I kind of suffer through it. I come in and type the report in my pajamas. And my supervisor's like, why are you in your pajamas? Because I'm going to hell home after this. Like, I'm sick. And a friend of mine who was involved in an officer-involved shooting, his partner was shot in the face. Anyway, he reached out to me. He says, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. He's like, no. How are you doing? I'm like, well, I didn't sleep very well. I had, kind of was. He says, yeah. Here's what to expect. And he kind of broke it down, like what to expect kind of in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, for real? Like, I didn't understand it. It had never been taught. They don't talk about that in the police academy. So, it was shortly after that where I was like, wow, yeah, he was right. Like, why isn't this a thing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? You don't have to kill somebody to experience trauma, So, and why this incident sticks out to me is because up to that point, 5 years up to that point, I had experienced a cumulative trauma.
Yeah.
Right? Just traumatic incident after traumatic incident after traumatic incident. And this is what I tell my people on the peer-to-peer support team. It doesn't have to be a significant call that pushes you over the edge.
Right.
Right? For me, it was this call. I don't remember much of my career prior to that call. Like, that is my traumatic call. I remember my first fatal. I remember my first suicide. But that was my traumatic call. So afterwards, I had approached our sheriff and undersheriff, and I said, I'd like to get some more information on CISM, on peer-to-peer support stuff. They said, find us some training. So I found some training right from the ICISM, and they said, all right, get in the car and go. And they sent me. They fully support what we do. Every idea that myself or my teammates have had, it's just, run with it, man. So it was impressive. It really was. I like to think one of the few times, we're right there at the spear tip of justice and helping our first responders.
Nice. So that's when you took that training, you came back and you created this team, the first team.
Yep, absolutely. Right. We started with just three officers from our sheriff's department, and we were used immediately, and so we realized there was a need, like, damn, this is real. And so I had asked for permission, and I give them notice of what my mission was, and that was to include all first responders. Our area around Tuscola County, there's not one full-time fire department. They're all volunteers. They all have jobs outside, and then when the pager goes off, they respond to the fire hall and they go, right? And we have pretty much 3 ambulance services, and none of them have anything available to them for these calls. And I said, well, do I have permission to go talk freely to these agencies? And sheriff's like, absolutely. All right. So I attended the fire chiefs meeting and sold them, tried to sell them the idea. And I had a couple pushbacks like, nah, that's too touchy-feely for us.
Right.
If you can't get over it, you need to move on.
Right.
But overall, man, everybody embraced it. We did 47 debriefings, whether it was one-on-one or peer-to-peer type stuff. We did 47 in the first 8 months of our team being formed. And at the end of 2019, I took these numbers to the fire chiefs and to the police chiefs, and our dispatch director is on board with it, because they're a forgotten first responder. When I go back to my call on that day, unfortunately that dispatcher is not dispatching anymore. That mother had enough sense that she kept 911 on the line, but she threw the phone under the hospital bed, right, so that dispatch could listen, and they were giving me updates. So we did 47 calls in the first 8 months of the team being formed. We had 3 that we referred to professional services, and we had 2 that actually came forward and said they were having suicidal thoughts. So, to think that we go to these suicides regularly of citizens, but to sit down across from the table, and I know you're in Nebraska and I'm in Michigan, but to sit down across from Bill, do you have any ideas of harming yourself? Yeah, John, I do. When you were going to leave tonight, I was going to hang myself. If that doesn't move you, there's something wrong with you.
That's scary, man. I've had a similar conversation, man, and it's like, what the hell do you do now? I mean, because you have you have your training and you have your, okay. So if I hear this is what I'm, and I've said it to 100 inmates, right? Are you suicidal? Yes, I am. Oh, okay, good. Have you ever attempted, and how are you planning to do it? And
do you have a plan?
Right. Yeah. But when I have a coworker standing across from me and saying, I had a gun in my mouth last night, and it's like, shit,
Right.
So,
and they know what has to be done.
Right.
They know because they've been there with other people too. So the courage that it takes to say, yeah, man, I thought about it, and here's how I was going to do it. Dude, man, that's we often talk about how we could never commit suicide, but man, I'm telling you, I don't know where you get that point in your life where you're just like, F it, I'm throwing it all away. But I pray to God I never get there.
Yeah, I think that, and I've talked to several people, but I think that suicide's really misunderstood. When I worked at the funeral home, and I worked for the county coroner, and I saw all the thought that went into it, all the care that was taken by the person that was deciding to end their life. I mean, it is not something that you just wake up and say, you know what, today I'm having a bad day today, and I'm gonna jump off a bridge. I mean, it's like some people, and then I learned that there's a difference between wanting to die and just not wanting to live, and so it's this big thing. And so when somebody says, oh, this job didn't affect me, or I'm not suicidal, or I'm not this, it's like, are you sure? Because the things that you say, the way that you behave, I mean, I think we're all just a bad call away, or
absolutely,
or for me, the most dangerous thing that we do is we don't acknowledge that the things that we see, say, and have to do are slowly destroying us.
Absolutely.
And those things, that's what sneak, like you said, you can go back to a call, and there are some of us that can, but for me, it wasn't one, hey, this call, this moment in time. For me, it was looking back, almost not like an outer body experience, but being a little bit removed from the violence and from all that, and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. This has really changed who I was before I pinned this badge on.
Right. Then we get to a point where we don't even recognize who we are. I'm on my second marriage, and problems aside with the first one, I could see now where I screwed up. No one ever, again, because there is such a stigma about mental health, and I don't like PTSD. It's not a disorder. It's an injury. Right. In my mind, it is an injury, because like in the military, you're 18 years old, you're a strapping young buck ready to go seize the world, right? And you go into the MEPS station,
right?
And they do all your thing. They look at your butthole and they slap you on the butt, and away you go to boot camp, right?
Right.
They only take healthy young men and women that are at the peak of their physical and I don't want to say mental, but at the physical shape that they're going to be in.
Right.
That's why when veterans go to retire, you go through the VA process and say, all right, this is wrong with you, this is wrong with you, that's broken, that's been busted, and then they compensate you. And it's not to get you back to where you were when you were 18. It's like trading in your beater ass truck because you rode it hard.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't take the best shape of it. So here's your trade-in.
Right.
It's not a pension. It's here's your trade-in.
Right.
Thank you for your life and your body, but here's a couple $100.
Right. See, we don't in corrections, we don't have any of that. I mean, we don't give the officers a fighting chance at all. We don't say,
no.
I have there's a course that I teach for the new hires, but honestly, you stand in front of a group of new hires and say, hey, this stuff that you're going to see is going to catch up. They're not listening to me. They don't understand it. And the vets that have fooled themselves, they're not paying much attention to it either. But I just don't know why we don't pay attention in the beginning and prepare them for the emotional, for the damage that's going to be done. We prepare people to be physically attacked all day long, and I watched this. I'm going to have Ernie Stevens on here in a couple of weeks. He works San Antonio PD. He was on a documentary called Crisis Cops, and there was a line at the beginning. He said, he goes, they trained me for 60 hours to shoot my gun, and they gave me 8 hours on mental health. Yeah, that's insane.
Absolutely.
But when you go around and talk to people, everybody's got these kind of stories. If you talk to a cop long enough, you talk to a corrections officer long enough, you cut through that bullshit, they've got this story.
Absolutely.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. And that was part of my number one goal, was to go out there to every agency and say, look, these old guys are leaving. You know, how many of these old guys are, you know, divorced, have no relationship with their children,
Right.
Freaking miserable, they're broke, they have a, you know, whether it be an alcohol habit or any other kind of habit, right? And because they totally don't want to deal with the situation at the center, you know. So, you know, it was trying to bring that awareness to not only the law enforcement, but to the fire agency and to the EMTs. And the way I was able to do that was actually bring people from each of those disciplines onto the team.
Nice.
Because there's credibility, like, you know, with both of us having, you know, you're still a correction officer, but I have a background in corrections. You and I can have a conversation because we know what each other's been through. Right. But for me to go to a fire hall and talk about how it's, you know, what it's experienced to find a deceased in a burning house, or to recover someone from a house and perform CPR and not be able to, you know, it takes another fireman to talk to them, you know, to build that relationship and that credibility. Because, you know, if I got a dispatcher sitting across from the desk from me telling me how my job should be interpreted, go get bent. You couldn't even get the facts straight on the call, right? So I brought all those people together. We share the vision. We try and get that out there. We really do. You know, and the purpose of the Facebook page that we have is, like I said, to educate, to edify, and to just make awareness, you know. And right from the beginning, on my videos, I've told everybody, if you're married, your spouse needs to follow this page. You know, because it cannot be on the man or the woman that's in this field alone. You know, because you will fail. You're going to get tired. You're going to break down. And who's your best friend, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, here's the scary part, and here's what I've tried to touch on in a couple of articles and in a video I just did not too long ago, is that not only will this job change you, but it's going to change. It's going to affect your family. It's going to change your spouse. It's going to change how they look at the world. It's going to, you know, there's going to be days that they walk on eggshells around you because you're an asshole. And you don't even know why you're being an asshole. I mean, it's just, and you know, I had a moment, you know, this weekend. We're riding in the car, everything is good, but I had one of those moments where I was just needed to be quiet. I just didn't, you know, I don't even know what I was thinking about, but it wasn't good. And you know, my wife saw it, and she's like, what do I got to do? How can I snap you out of it? We're having a great day, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, and sometimes you can pull out of it. Sometimes you can't pull out of it, you know, and so that is, I think, one of the reasons too, that officers won't admit that there is something going on, because now they're responsible for affecting their household, for changing, you know, my son that I talked about, he views the world a lot like I do. And for a 20-year-old kid to view the world the way a 42-year-old correctional officer does, that's scary. That's scary. He's going to be a mean bastard when he's 42.
He's jaded.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's so, you know, and I have this chapter in my book that talks about this movie that I was watching, and it was about this cop that was. Did you see this? I'm going to tell it anyways.
Right. This one right here.
Hey, that's a nice book, John. My buddy.
Doing my homework, man.
Is that why you said beat up truck? Because I do drive a beat up truck.
Well, you know, I had a perp today tell me that his truck was better than mine. I'm like, okay.
Of course it is, buddy. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
No, so I'm sitting there watching this movie, and it's about a cop who he pulls this baby out of a dumpster. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the show with my son, who was probably, I don't know, 16 at the time, whatever. And I'm watching it, and I've been there. I pulled a baby out of a dumpster before, and I'm, you know, that's cool, whatever. But the next day it shows the dad, and he's sitting there and he's reading the newspaper, and it's quiet.
Right.
And so in comes the daughter and the mom, and they're doing the daughter and mom thing, and they're loud and they're talking and 100 miles an hour. And I start to get anxious sitting there in the chair, because I can see the actor getting anxious.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, you know, this is, you know, I've been here. And then, you know, he tells the little girl a couple times, please be quiet, honey, please be quiet, you know, and then he finally snaps on her.
Absolutely.
And out of the corner of my eye, when that little girl, when he snapped on his daughter, out of the corner of my eye, I see my son kind of lean up and look over at me.
Right.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Because here I am sitting here experiencing what the actor's experiencing, the cop, right?
Right.
The whole time my son is sitting in the chair next to me, putting himself
with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a terrible moment. That was a terrible moment for me.
And it's instances like that really brings you back. My kids are old enough now, but when I first started this job, they were like, "Oh, did you take any bad people to jail today?" Yeah, honey, I did. Well, it wasn't until they were in high school that you're starting to do investigations on their friends that may have been raped or assaulted by a boyfriend or whatever else, and their friend might confide in them, and they're like, "Well, shit. Pretty sure that's the case my dad's working on,"
Right.
and it's just like, golly, I hate living in. I'm happy I live where I work,
Right.
but I hate it at the same time.
Right.
Like I gotta stay away from Walmarts.
That should just be a rule of thumb, no matter what.
Right.
Listen, I have a buddy that you can pick up your groceries outside.
Yes.
You order them online, you call it, it's the greatest thing ever. He refuses. I think he's a masochist, man. He refuses to pick them up. He wants to go inside and deal with it. And I don't understand why he does that.
Huh. He likes to wear the mask, doesn't he?
He does wear the mask.
Oh my God.
He does wear the mask. Is there something wrong? Listen, I say there's something wrong with him, but he's my buddy, right? So
guilty by association.
Right, always question his judgment.
What I do is have the wife pick him up on her way home from the hospital. It works though.
Sure.
She goes to Meijer, which is classier than Walmart's.
Okay.
And she works night shift. I work day shift. When I get home, I'm just too tired.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bless her heart then. Bless her heart. She should make you starve.
No, I keep teasing her. She's a chubby chaser.
Listen, I told my sister-in-law a long time ago. My sister-in-law used to have this boyfriend, and he was super cut, just like a rock, And I told her, I said, look, when you get older and you decide to settle down, you find yourself a chubby dude because we're super loyal.
Love you long time.
Yeah, we're not even going to run that far. Yeah. Just feed us, and that's it. That's all we have to do.
Right.
I forgot what I was even going to say, John. You are out of control. And what were we talking about before we talked about Walmart? Meijer. Oh, here's what my wife does with the groceries. She comes down and she says, Bill, will you pick up my groceries? I'm like, yeah, sure. When they're going to be ready? She goes, now. Sure. Yeah, I guess I'm going to the store right now.
Right. Yeah.
But it's okay. No. It's okay because then I sync up my phone, I listen to my favorite podcasts, and away I go.
So what's it like to listen to yourself?
It's
I mean, can you like your show more than once? How do you do that? How many accounts do you have?
I have a lot.
506?
Yeah, who knows? I've subscribed to my own channel 500 times. The other 5 are I have 2 aunts and my neighbor that I talked about earlier. That's all it is. No, I do listen to I got to listen to my show, John, because I got to know. Listen, a couple weeks ago I did a show that I thought, man, I was just not happy. When the show was over, I just didn't feel like it went where it needed to go. So, sure. And so I always listen to the show again like on Monday. And I listened to it on Monday, and I'm like, you know what? There was some really good information there, and not from me necessarily, but that's why I have you guys on because I'm just, whatever. But so I have to. So then the next time, I try to make it good. But my wife does tease me a lot, says I like to hear myself talk, so that's why I do it. So
well, and I think you can relate that, when you do these videos, like I can't do Facebook Live, right? I've done it once or twice.
You should though.
I'm the guy that
you're doing it now.
Right, and I'm uncomfortable. But so I can do 17 Wellness Wednesdays before I find that one.
Right.
And same thing. You post it, you're like, oh, that was a good, that was all right, and then you watch it, and you're like, that was dumb.
Right.
I shouldn't have said that.
Right.
And then you get, bing, you get a message. Oh, that was great information tonight. I'm like, oh, all right.
Right.
So it's interesting.
You just never. I mean, the beautiful thing is you just never know who's listening. You never know who you're reaching. That's why, you talked about putting the different people on the team, and that's why I watch your show for when it comes out on the Wednesdays, and I listen to the other podcasts and the other guys, because you just never know who's out there who may like listen to me and say, I don't know, I kind of get it, but I don't get it. But then they listen to Jon and they're like, you know what? I get it. Or they listen to that firefighter say that. Or the key is, and I've said this on a couple of shows, is that we need everybody who can stand up and talk about this stuff to stand up and talk about it, because you just never know who's out there who's gonna key in on that one thing.
And had I don't know that I would have believed it if someone told me at the time, and healing is a process. But had I known, there was a time that I wouldn't have been able to tell you the story about that call, right? Mm-hmm. There was a time I wouldn't be able to share that. But after the first one or two times of telling it, making myself tell the story, or the worst is getting an award for it, right? Like when you asked me for a bio, I froze, like deer in a headlight, right? Like, shit, man, I don't want to talk about myself. Right?
Well, you did a hell of a job for not wanting to talk about yourself, Jon.
No, stop. Right. So nobody can see that bio, but darn well 2/3 of it is about the team, not me. It's about the success of the team.
No, it is, but it's a long ass bio.
Okay.
Is it? No, it is weird. You're right, though. It is weird writing about yourself, and because. At least for me, I don't feel like it's like you said. I'll put out this video or I'll write this article, and I'm like, I mean, I feel like it's good, but I don't know. And then you'll get this incredible email from somebody. It's like, man, this changed my whole life, and you're like,
right.
Wow. There was a guy that left a comment the other day that said, hey, I hope you guys know that. You guys are, the information you're given is going to live forever, and I'm like, holy crap, man. I mean, that's what do I do with that?
Sure.
It's a big responsibility, but I'm just trying to. I've seen so many. There's so many of my coworkers that are just walking around just defeated, just
waiting to retire.
Yeah, and some of them aren't even going to make it, man. And I just feel like I got to get to them, because I don't want them to go through the things that I'm going through, or that you're talking about, or that some of my other guests are going to talk about. I want to try to get in between them and what may develop down the road.
Right. And this goes along with personal health as far as mental, spiritual, physical health, right? You have to find something that brings joy.
Right.
This job will kill you.
Right.
It doesn't take a shank. It doesn't take a bullet. This job will kill you, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, or being overweight.
Oh, you pulled my medical records too, I see.
Mine too. That wasn't in my bio. But anyway.
That was the only thing that wasn't in your bio, Jon.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Yeah, you realize I got to go to work tomorrow, right? All these people are.
That's right. Who is? Listen, who is? Do you know Dustin?
Yes.
Okay, so Dustin here is speaking very highly of you. So I don't know if you paid that guy today or whatever. No, he said that you're the real deal, and he must be laughing at the Walmart that is by your. He said especially the one near us. But yeah, he seems like. And then what about a Brandt? You know a Brandt?
I do.
Okay, so he's on the fire department, and he really appreciates knowing that you have family right behind you. When you want to turn and run is a huge relief, man. You're changing people's lives, dude.
Well, yeah. About Dustin.
Okay.
Dustin's a hell of a guy. He's a substance abuse counselor that has teamed up with my team. I've had to call him in a couple times to help. But with his help, we were able to save some first responders' jobs that, they were able to admit, this, and this is where it comes back to, they don't treat the root or the cause. They just kind of self-medicate, which we all do. I prefer tacos, but it's all right. And
right, food, that's serious, yeah.
Yeah, and Dustin's a great guy, combat vet. I don't want to get too much into his story, but I respect that man a lot.
Well, thanks Dustin for watching, and if you're working with Jon and you're helping him out, man, then you have my appreciation, man, and my admiration for doing it, because we need it, man. I think that we refuse. There's so many people out there that I talk to that say that, well, corrections or law enforcement is not the only reason that I'm like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not, but it's not making your situation any worse. And so, but it's like we refuse to look at this, this thing. Okay, so so I'm drinking more and I've gained some weight, and my relationship's kind of failing a little bit. But we refuse to look at our profession, and I think it's because we're really good at what we do. Like at work, we're we're the best that we can be.
Right. When you're producing citations, or when you're saving lives, or making traffic stops, or solving crimes, how can you look at yourself and say there's something wrong with me?
Right.
Because that's how we grade ourselves, is on production. Right?
Right.
Numbers. I want to see numbers produced out of you. Well, okay, but at what cost? And it's always going to be you and the family, always. So it's a terrible trap, terrible cycle, and I got to share this because one of my fire chiefs, he's the lead instructor for the area for the fire academy, and he's been teaching for a long time. His name's Randy, so I affectionately call him Rescue Randy. And
nice,
right, and probably one of the nicest compliments that this team has ever received. Is the fact that as a lead instructor, he says, Jon, I've been teaching these firemen for X amount of years how to be safe on the fire yard, how to get everybody home, how to assess and read smoke and fire, and, all the safety stuff that goes with firefighting. But he goes, I failed. And I said, what the hell do you mean? You've never lost a fireman on a call,
right.
All of our fire agencies are very, very good and safe and all that stuff. And he says, well, thanks to you, I never taught them how to live after the call.
Oh, man. Yeah.
He says, we go and we may perform CPR on the child, and we clear. Well, somebody's going to go home and tuck their little girl into bed, or tuck their little boy into bed, or somebody's going to go back to the elevator and get back on the tractor and, haul crops, or, whatever that everybody kind of does. We're extremely rural and in a farming area. So, that was kind of his thing, was like, man, I failed these guys. And it's like, you didn't fail. You can't be held accountable for what you didn't know.
Right.
Number one. So now that change your curriculum. So
that is a tough thing, and especially for you and your team. And this is what I tell I'm on the crisis negotiation team, and I tell the people that are on my team, I'm like, look, I'm asking you to be put in a position where you're going to be on the other end of a phone or on the other side of a door with a suicidal party, with a homicidal party, and that you may lose that person, and then I'm going to ask you to go back and do your normal job and count the inmates, count the cleaning bottles, and make sure they're all there. And I want to make sure that your head is right, and you have ways and avenues to decompress, to process this kind of information, because you're going to even the training that we went through for to be on that negotiation team, man. There's some lasting effects from that, just from the train. Sure. Like you talked about the dispatcher earlier, being on the phone, hearing those things, hearing somebody being beaten or raped or screaming, for help. Absolutely. And you can't get to them. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah. It's a secondary trauma, and one thing I never thought about, even in the process of forming this group and getting some trainings together and getting information out there, was, what about our court reporters? I mean, they're in there doing their little, transcription, or what about our prosecutors? You know, for our area, we have prosecutors that specialize, well, now that marijuana is legal in our area, you know, they specialize in drug crimes, you know, high dollar crimes. We had one that specializes in domestic violence and child abuse, you know, cases, you know, and what about how do you, you know,
you're right.
How mother or father, how do you review case after case after case of children being raped or beaten and assaulted to the point that either they die or they're near death? Right? How do you not get attached and want vengeance for every one of those kids, but how do you accept when you don't get it, or when you have to go home and be, mommy, you know, it's my birthday, we got to make cupcakes for class tomorrow, or you know, it's that kind of stuff that we just think is limited to first responders that see the trauma, but that secondary trauma is there for everyone involved with that case.
And that's an important thing to say, man, because when you and one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened, my neighbor who gave me the cheese book and makes the jalapeno poppers, I was sitting there, and a lot of times, man, when there's a lot of people around and we're sitting there, I'm just quiet and I'm just taking it all in, you know, and I do that because I've held, you know, a severed head in my hands, and sometimes I just need to just be quiet. And so, you know, my wife was flipping me a little bit of shit about it, and my neighbor said, oh, well, when Bill's quiet like that, he's processing. That's what his book says. And I'm like, yes, thank you. You know, I was like, well, that's so cool that she first of all, that she took the time to read the book. And second of all, that she is understanding that. And I think that for a lot of friends and family who don't see the kind of things that we're exposed to, they don't know that those things even exist, that they don't understand that some days that I just can't, you know, I just need to, I'm not upset. I'm not mad with you. I'm just nothing. I just need to just sit for a minute. Right.
And that's, you know, one of the hardest things to realize too, is I'm just here. I'm existing. Right. Are you mad? No. Are you happy because you don't look happy? No.
Right.
Are you sad?
No.
You know, I had an intern with me, and we were in the car probably 7 hours. And she just kind of looked at him. She goes, do you do this every day? Like, drive around? Yeah, it's kind of my job. No, you haven't turned on the radio yet. Oh, yeah, no, I don't listen to the radio in my car. And she's like, you work a 12-hour shift and you don't turn on the damn radio?
Right.
No. Like, it's just, you know, I don't know, man. That's just me. You know, I'm processing everything that I went through yesterday. You know, this is my weekend to work, so I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, by the time Sunday comes, man, it's like, you know, it's just, I don't want to do nothing. You know, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. Right. You know, I just want to be.
Which is crazy because we spend, well, at least when I'm at work and I'm going through the shift, man, all I can think about is wanting to get home and the things that I'm going to do on my weekend and the interactions that I'm going to have. And then when I get to that point, some weekends I just don't want to do anything. I just lay there until it's time to go back to jail. You know, which is ridiculous.
Right. You also got sentenced to a life sentence.
I got 8 years left, man. That's in California. That'd be 24 years at the end. So that's in California. That's a life sentence, man.
Right?
Yeah, that's sad.
I got 8. I got 13 more to go.
There's days I don't think I'm going to make it, man. 8. That's a long time.
You know, and that's kind of the thing is like we are very fortunate with the area that we live in, right? In the environment that the world is right now towards law enforcement, we are very fortunate. I mean, I legitimately, there's not a day that goes by that I don't have somebody saying, "Hey, thanks for what you do. Thank you for your service." You know, and there's 2 cars on day shift, myself and my partner, and we joked around because for like 3.5 weeks we never bought lunch. You know, we would go to a different restaurant because, you know, yesterday we went there and somebody bought our lunch, and we'd go somewhere else, and, you know, they're like, well, your bill's been taken care of. Well, crap, thanks, but all right, we'll go somewhere else tomorrow.
Right.
And so it's very fortunate in the area that we live in. But at the same time, it wears on you, because what we see in Kenosha and Seattle and Portland, it can happen here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it can happen anywhere, and as far as an officer, and this is, I guess, where I talk a lot, I'm sorry. But this is the most frightening part for me. And after that call, I had another incident where I had to draw my firearm on somebody. And on both instances, the first thing I thought of was, fuck it, I'm going to lose everything.
Right.
That should not be my first thought.
Right.
My thought is not ending that person's life. It's how it's going to end mine. I know a lot of officers that we joke, but yet we're serious. Like, if something happens, divorce me immediately.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, bring the papers to the jail. Like, I don't care. Divorce me.
Right. Save
everything for the kids. It just, you should not have to go through your working career, a career that you chose, and here in Michigan, in order to work for a sheriff's department, you have to have a college degree, right? Well, I'm one of the few that did not go to college for law enforcement. Okay. So we all chose this, but I had a clearly different path that I could have went.
Right.
I had a job offer with the Secret Service, but I said, no, I want to go back home and work for my people that I grew up with. So it's a tough situation. I know a lot of officers are getting tired. Those that are within 5 years of retirement are just, they would do anything for a buyout or just to, leave.
No, you're right. It's because the amount of stress that everybody's under on it, just without any of that. Take away right. The coronavirus, take away the civil unrest, take away all of that.
It's a stressful job.
It's a ridiculously stressful job. And now add, this, you can just watch just the videos, the filthy videos of what people are out there doing and saying right now. And they're burning. There was just a jail they burned down the jail in Kenosha. And, right. And things are trickling all over the country. Even in Omaha, they're having, protests and things. And it's like, if they knew actually where our heart was and why right. the majority of us are doing the things that we're doing, right. Then none of this would be happening. But we're so far from the point of being able to just have a conversation that right. I don't know what we do.
And the only, I'm holding firm to this belief that it's like a pendulum, right? Mm-hmm. So we're so far this way that at some point it's got to come back to the center, right?
God, you hope so.
God, that's all you can hope for.
So.
Just keep doing the right thing and keep moving forward. Be the example, be the light, if you will. Cliche, fine, but just you got to keep pressing forward.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why it's important for guys like you to do what you're doing, is because right now, I mean, you have more people on the edge than ever before. I mean, these are people that willingly risk their life every single time. Their families sacrifice their time, their everything when they go out. They say, "Here, go protect other people, put your life on the line for other people." And maybe you come home, maybe you don't, and now they're second guessing that because everybody else is saying, hey, that's not good enough, or hey, you're not really doing that, you're doing it for other reasons, and yeah, I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to, people in their area, their departments, man, retirements, people are getting out if they can get out. People are saying, you know what, I'm out, I'm just quitting. I'm not. I knew that taking this job, I may have to take a life, but right. I didn't sign up to go to prison, and they're right. They're going back 2, 3, 4 years looking at use right. of force situations and then arresting the people now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary stuff.
Right. What did you do 4 years ago that you were ashamed of?
I'm not going to say it live on. It may go.
Thank God that we didn't have Facebook when we were kids, right?
Man, I'll tell you what. That is, my kids put, they're always recording. And I'm like, man, you can't. You can track people on the phones. You can do everything.
Right.
Man, I don't know. I would have been grounded. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
It would have been really bad. It would have been if there would have been a Snapchat when I was
I probably wouldn't have been married.
No, or I wouldn't have stayed married.
Right.
Came back around. That's terrible, man. This everything's upside down.
It's not LeBron James on your cup, is it?
No. First of all, this is I went to the Denver Nuggets game in Colorado one year. Denver Nuggets and Golden State Warriors. My son's a big Steph Curry fan, so we went to watch a play. So this is from 3 years ago. This is the free cup when I bought a $20 Pepsi.
Right.
This is my free.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
got
would.
A few of those.
No, I would not have anything basketball right now.
No.
Can't do it, man. Can't do it. Plus, I'm a big football guy anyway, so I'm not football. And then, well, I can't. I got to have something. I really think that if we were playing sports right now, that the country wouldn't be as upset as it is.
Probably.
We'd have something to distract us instead of the Tiger King.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Tiger King, John?
No.
You didn't?
No, I refuse.
Why?
No, I refuse.
Oh, but why?
I could just from what I gather off of social media and my friends, that's like a Friday night at Walmart, right? I mean, I'll put on my pajama pants and I'll put on my skids and I'll go to Walmart and I'm good.
I've been to a couple of shady Walmarts, man, and I've never seen what I saw on that show. But I will say that show, first of all, I think the moment's passed. So it's kind of like, I should have done, mushrooms in high school, but I never did, and the moment's passed. I shouldn't have said that when you were taking a drink. I was waiting for you to sip and mushrooms. The moment for you is passed for Tiger King. Honestly, silly, kind of ridiculous stuff like that is what helps me take my mind off of the craziness. So whether it's reading a book or whether it's watching, silly stuff on Netflix or whatever it is, it's important for me to have that kind of decompressing. So what do you do? What's John do to kind of decompress, man, to get away from it all?
So
keep it clean.
I spent 12. I'm married twice. That stuff don't happen. So I come home from working 12 hours with my friends and have dinner with the family, and then come right up here to my office where I have a nice, just cushy love seat,
right,
and a big screen, and then we get online and kill people.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
wholesome.
Yeah. Are you talking like Modern Warfare, Call of Duty kind of stuff? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, this is probably a great idea for a guy who's lived the things that you've lived too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't relive anything.
No, I'm sure.
We'll be in the middle of the game and then I hear the, enemy airstrike. I'm ducking and got my helmet on, my flak jacket beside me. Yeah. That's all right.
I would love to see you gaming in your flak jacket, your helmet. It's like Restrepo, and you're playing your Call of Duty.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. And my Santa boxers.
Oh
and
my gosh!
My reindeer slippers. Yeah, something like that.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. This is I've lost control. This is out of control. Yeah, this is exactly what I needed it to be tonight. By the way, for our 21st episode. So. I thank you very much for that.
Wild and crazy.
John, any last words? Any words of so talk a little bit real quick about your Wellness Wednesday. You got into Wellness Wednesday, And where can they find Wellness Wednesday? And and maybe how do you come up with some of the subjects for that?
Wow, quick answer. Okay.
Ready, go.
So, yes. So you can on Facebook, the Tuscola County SISM/First Team, and it just I met that peer support couple at a conference in Northern Michigan.
Great people.
Great
I've never
people.
met them personally, but I stalk them on their Facebook.
Sure. So, funny story, side story. Sorry, it's going to take a minute.
I love side stories.
A friend of mine from Bay City, Michigan, moved to Texas, right?
Okay.
So, she opened up her own business. She's got a pug rescue, right? Yeah, pug, and she takes care of dogs and things like that. And so she knows that peer support couple, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to Michigan," and I texted her, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going up north," and she didn't put two and two together. And then I posted a picture of me with that peer support couple, and like as soon as I hit post, boom, my phone blows up. Oh my God, they're my clients. So funny story, cool people, they're great. So I do Wellness Wednesdays. I try to do Wellness Wednesdays every week. Again, just to edify and empower and educate. And you can, again, find that at our Facebook page. And on our Facebook page, I have a crisis line, 24 hours a day, 365. It rings into my phone. Also have a crisis email if it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm tying the noose around my neck. And also, you can message the page as well. We have several team members that have access to it.
There's something wrong with you, dude.
Yeah, if I had a nickel every time I heard that.
Standing on the chair, trying to get this.
Right. It's like Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
Carving it into.
Trying to cover Brooks Hadley was here. What was that Facebook page John talked about? Oh.
Just don't drop the phone, okay?
Is it don't drop the soap where I'm at?
Well,
It's don't drop the phone.
Yeah.
John, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight, man. And
Thanks for
I'm
having
gonna
me.
link up your page on the description. And I enjoyed talking to you, dude. Keep up your Wellness Wednesday.
Thank you.
It's amazing information. I appreciate it, and I'll start sharing it up on my page, and so more people can see it and get people involved, man. And you're doing great things, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. It's been fun. Hope to do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely, dude. All right, man. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. It was a super long, extended version of the Saturday Night Synopsis, but a great time. John's a hell of a guy. He's doing the Lord's work, man, and I'm going to post those links up so you can check out his page. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, email me at justcorrections@gmail.com, justcorrections@gmail.com. Check out the YouTube channel, Just Corrections. And if you like this video and you know somebody who may be interested in the content, please share this video with them and tell us what we're doing here so they can get on board and spend some time with us. All right, guys, until next time, be smart, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk soon.
Hey, 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 yeah, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, 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 yeah, yeah, let's go.